All right, so this personal operating system and this productivity routine that I'm about to walk you through is going to make me hundreds of thousands of dollars in personal take-home income over the next 12 months. And so I'm going to walk you through exactly what this looks like. This is a productivity system and routine that I've really been operating off of. It's gone through different iterations and evolutions over the last 10 years. When I first started in 2016, I dropped out of college and I was working in construction. I started an online fitness coaching business. And so during that time, I was working in construction during the day and I was trying to grow my business in the evening, right? So I was doing the whole working a 9 to 5 and then working 5 to 9. And, I didn't have a lot of time. And so I realized very quickly that I was gonna have to learn how to get very good and effective with my time, energy, and effort. I was gonna figure out like what actually moves the needle forward, what actually builds my business and makes me money. And so that was really kind of the start to it all. Eventually that business, took off and, turned into a full-time business. And in 2019, I ended up opening up a gym. All right. And so again, there's been different iterations. I've gone through different businesses. In 2021, I started getting into business coaching and business consulting. And these systems and these processes have just continued to be refined. Have gone into the businesses and lives of literally hundreds of other fitness coaches now over the last 5 years. And so again, what I just want to do is just walk you through this. I mean, people have followed this and literally there are millions of dollars that have been generated in online fitness coaching just using these really simple processes. And so I want to walk you through. Now I've got several different notes here. I don't know if you can see that, but I've got several different notes here. So different things I want to show you. I've got some different tabs. I've got this Notion doc. I have like a morning routine that I'm going to walk you through and an evening routine, some different things I do. And I'm also going to walk you through it. I'm going to show you my calendar to show you kind of how I think about productivity and just again, like really the way I want you to think is like, think of this like as a personal operating system. What I really want to hand off to you more than anything else is not just like do these things, you're going to make money. Like, sure, like that's kind of a piece of it. But like, I want to help you actually understand, like, how do I live the life of an entrepreneur? Like, what does success actually look like in a day-to-day basis? Like, what does my mindset, where does my energy, where does my effort need to go? Like, one of the biggest things that I hear from coaches time and time again is they're like, dude, I'm doing so much work, but I'm just not getting a lot out of it, right? I hear all the time where it's like, dude, like I don't really know, like I'm doing a bunch, but I don't really know like what's effective, what's working. And the thing that I always tell people is like, you want your business and you want just your life in general to feel, a lot like a workout program where you wake up and you know exactly what do I need to do today? How do I need to do it, right? Like you don't just go into the gym and just, randomly grab dumbbells or just randomly go sit down on machines and, expect to make any sort of good progress over a 12-month period, right? And yet that's like what a lot of people do, right? Like they just wing their diet, they wing their workouts, and then they wonder like, why are they not seeing progress? Why are they not getting results, right? And it's like, well, that's, you just need a little bit of structure. So that's what I want to help you with here today. So two caveats here to kind of help you understand. So number one, I'm going to walk you through practically what this looks like. But then what I have written here on these notes is I want to teach you the principles. I believe it's Jim Rohn that said, each person needs to understand their own philosophy. And the basic idea, I kind of forget exactly. I think that was how the quote goes. But the overarching concept and the thought there is that like, you can't just copy somebody else's plan and routine, verbatim 100%. Like sure, like success leaves clues. And if somebody's being successful in a certain area, like you should 100% pay attention and try to figure out like what's working for them, try to implement it into my own life and see and understand like what is working and not working. But like each and every single individual person, they say like, oh, we all have the same 24 hours. But the thing is like, while we all have the same 24 hours, we all do have different responsibilities, right? Baby Evie was just born into our family 8 weeks ago. And so like now I have different responsibilities and that's had to shift around some of, my priorities and some of the ways that I was spending my time because now, we have a little baby girl to look after. And, like even just this morning, she, poops on my wife and we have to give her a bath, right? And so like that actually has thrown off. I'm actually about 30 to 45 minutes behind today, like inside of my routine and my schedule. And it's totally fine because I have a system and a process that is built in such a way where there's flexibility, where things don't always 100% go as planned. And yet I can still get to the end of the day and have achieved everything I needed to achieve. I've done all the tasks that I need to do and I'm going to keep myself right on track. And that's what's really important, I believe, inside of a good routine. Like sometimes there's two different camps that I kind of see this whole like productivity world in, right? Number one is like, there will be the ones that are just these super rigid, super structured. That's like, hey, I'm going to spend 15 minutes doing this and then 20 minutes doing this and then 10 minutes doing this and then 2 minutes doing this. And the issue is again, like if you would have a day like today happens and things get thrown off, then the whole day just gets kind of thrown out the window, right? On the other side of things, I see people try to just build these to-do lists and just go, oh, I'm just going to do these things every single day. And what often can happen there is there's too little structure. So the first one, there was just too much structure. And again, if anything kind of happens, then it just like throws the whole thing off. But also on the other side of things, then I'll see people that'll just like try to have like no structure whatsoever. And it's just like wake up and I'm just going to hope that I get everything done. And, I've gone through periods where I've tried that as well because I've tried so many different things to be productive and efficient with my time. But what ended up happening there is like I would get towards the end of the day and I would realize like there was still a bunch of stuff that wasn't done. And number one, it would mean that either stuff just like was not getting done on a consistent basis or, I would rush through and I would try to check all these tasks off. But it's like, man, it's like, hey, I'm doing something like posting content in the evening that probably would have been better to have done it earlier in the morning so that people had all day to actually see that piece of content. Or, I'm sending DMs like right before I go to bed, which is like people just aren't going to respond because they're getting ready to go to bed. Number two, if they do respond, it's like I'm already going to be in bed. So it's like, that would have been better to do that earlier in the day. So again, it's like you'll do tasks that maybe we're just like, that would have been a better time of the day to do that, right? So let's walk through and it's like, how do we actually mesh these worlds? Because you're probably a lot like me. You're probably like, hey, like I've got a family, I'm trying to build a business. I want to provide. But like the reality is, I can't just be like a, young 20-year-old kid that has no life responsibilities who can literally just spend 18 hours a day working on my business. It's like, no, like I've got a marriage, I've got kids, or I've got other responsibilities. I like to go to church. I maybe donate my time. Maybe I do different things for charity throughout the week. There's just like things that you do. And it's like, how do I fit all this in? All right. And so what I'm going to do here is walk you through. I'll kind of give you the principles, I guess, as we go along so you can maybe just understand like where this fits in and what it could look like. But let me zoom in and I'll just kind of show you like what my week actually looks like. So first of all, I just want to say the very first thing that you want to do 100% is pick out for yourself a good, consistent sleep routine. This is really the foundation to building any sort of routine or like personal operating system. You have to start getting consistent with your sleep times. All right. So for me personally, I go to bed between like 8:30, like I'm trying to be asleep by 9, and then I'm waking up at 4:30. And this is incredibly consistent for me. Now, like last night, for instance, I didn't get to bed till like 10:30, but I still woke up at 4:30. So I had a little bit less sleep last night, but I know that I have to create consistency, right? Like this is one of the first laws of success is that like if you cannot be consistent, then you're just never going to, it's like trying to, diet, but you're not consistently following your diet. Like you're just not going to lose the weight. You're not going to get shredded. Like you have to be consistent. And this is actually one of the bigger things that I run into with business owners all the time, especially fitness coaches, where they're just so inconsistent with their daily business activities. So the very first thing is like we have to get a consistent wake up time and a consistent sleep time. And I would say like really the big thing is like the consistent wake up time. Like obviously the sleep time, it's so important to get sleep. I think it's actually one of the most important things because if you're just tired all the time, like cognitively, like your brain, like you just can't even literally think. But I would say like if you are literally starting your day out, hitting the snooze button, not waking up when you need to, and you're not waking up at a consistent time, you're just screwing over your entire day. Everything else moving forward is already just off. And, sometimes you can make things up and it's not that big of a deal, but if it is happening every single day, like your business, like it's more than likely, like you might be able to build, a 3K a month business or something, but like you're not going to build a multi-six-figure business. You're not going to be working with 40, 50 clients and being able to keep up with that without a level of discipline and like being an actual real leader. All right. Cause like at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about is like you stepping up as a leader and leading your life so that you can then turn around and lead other people. So for me personally, I wake up at 4:30 every single morning. And I'm going to walk you through, this is where the first principle that I wanted to introduce you to is you need to understand your non-negotiables. So the way that I want you to think about non-negotiables, for me, one of my non-negotiables is waking up at 4:30, all right? And the reason I say this is a non-negotiable, all right? So some of you guys, like immediately when I say non-negotiables, what might come to your mind is you might just go, oh, like one of my non-negotiables is like I work out every single day, all right? That's probably not a non-negotiable for you. What your non-negotiables are, the way I want you to think about them is your non-negotiables are things that you actually struggle to do. It's things that like aren't fun. So for most fitness coaches, it's like they harp on this thing. We're like, oh, I go to the gym every single day. It's like cool and all, but it's like, that's easy for you. You enjoy going to the gym. And so counting that as like this big non-negotiable, like checkbox thing that you're trying to like, feel productive and get dopamine from, like doesn't really count. All right. What you need to do is your non-negotiables need to be things that you actually struggle with so that we are tackling hard things. All right. The second principle that I'm going to give you is actually choosing your hard. All right. And so again, we're going to break all this down. Principle number one is we need to get clear on our non-negotiables, and non-negotiables are not things we enjoy doing. Non-negotiables are things that we need to do that we don't necessarily like doing. So for me, waking up at 4:30 in the morning is not something that I enjoy doing. It's actually incredibly difficult. And so what I have done in reaction to that is I take a video every single morning, and as soon as I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, I go out to the gym and I do my second non-negotiable, which is I do my mobility, all right? It's super hard for me to find time to do mobility, to do abs. And so every single morning, I wake up at 4:30, non-negotiable number one, something that I don't want to do. Number two then is I go out to the gym, I start to do my mobility, and I do push-ups, and I video myself doing push-ups every single morning. And it's the very first thing that I post on my stories every single morning. And I put a timestamp there to be like, 4:33, 4:34, 4:36, like whatever time it actually is. And what that is doing for me is it is an accountability protocol. Like it's an accountability piece that like, I know that if I hit the snooze button and I don't wake up and I don't go film, that my clients are seeing it. I know that everybody on social media who is considering working with me is seeing it like, oh, tell Skip today. Tell's being inconsistent. And so I'm picking something that's hard And then I'm finding ways to hold myself accountable to actually doing those things. This is the way that you need to be thinking if you want to be successful. You have to get really good. Number one, understanding what your non-negotiables are, but then number two, choosing your hard and choosing something early in the day, things that are difficult, things that you don't necessarily want to do. And so I'm actually going to break down for you what the protocol is, by the way, from 4:30 to 6:30. I'm going to break down for you like what this looks like. This is my tracker that I use. So I'm going to break down all that for you. But choosing things that are difficult, choosing things that you don't necessarily want to do, and getting those things done early in the morning. So I got this concept actually from Tony Robbins. He wakes up every single morning, and the first thing he does is he walks outside, I believe it's like outside on his balcony, and he jumps into a cold plunge. So he has a cold plunge that he keeps at 56 degrees, and he jumps into a cold plunge. And the whole idea there is that you have to learn, if you want to be a high performer, if you want to be productive, if you want to get a lot of stuff done and be able to actually have time for your family, if you actually want to be able to have time for other things outside of work, then you're going to have to get really ruthless and good at your time and how to like actually manage it. And so Tony Robbins' concept of like actually like choosing hard things and doing these things early in the morning, the whole concept is like you are training your brain that it's not about what your brain and your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions want to do. It's about that you get to pick and choose, right? You get to override that. You get to say, no, like this is what I'm going to do. And then find ways to make it public or tell your spouse about it. Like find some way to get accountable, get a coach, find ways to actually be accountable to doing these things so that we can begin training your brain that you are the one that's in control, right? So important. And so the third principle we'll talk about here in a second, all right? It's a little bit different. It's a whole other one. It's about actually picking commitments and putting them on the calendar, and it's going to look a little bit different, all right? So basically what I do is I'm going to walk you through this like really briefly, and then I'm going to hop into like several other things, just kind of break down for you like how to think about your day-to-day. So first thing I do in the morning is the protocol. Now the protocol is where I pack in all of my own personal like self-development. This is where I choose to do hard things. This is where like I wake up early and I do these things that I don't necessarily want to do, but they're things that I know move me forward. So in the past, I've done things where like, hey, I've woken up early and I've just went straight to the gym. So I'll wake up at 4:30, I'll get around, I'll get ready, I'll hop in the car, I'll drive to the gym. I get to the gym about 5 or so, try to make it home by 6:30 and have some breakfast with the family. So I've done that in the past. Again, sometimes maybe this stuff can change. What my current protocol looks like is I wake up in the morning, head out to the gym, and I can actually just show you here. I do my personal success habits. So I wake up at 4:30. Then what I do is I go out to the gym and I do my mobility. So this workout is actually, this is not like my actual workout. There's a difference. So I go out there, I do my mobility, I do my push-ups, I shoot my video, I post that over on my stories. Then I go in and I read. Right now I'm currently reading The Perfect Week Formula by Craig Ballantyne. This has been a really good book. This is really interesting. It's about productivity. Another book that I enjoy reading from time to time that also just happens to be here on my desk that I recommend is Be Your Future Self Now. If you've never read that book, I definitely recommend you pick it up. But what I do is I read. And typically what I do is I read about a chapter, or I make sure at minimum like I read 10 pages or like 30 minutes. That's kind of like the different metrics and things that I'm looking for. Is I just try to get like a decent amount of reading done. My goal is to make it through, it's not even so much to make it through a book a month necessarily, just kind of like wherever it lands. My overarching goal is just that every single day I read enough to actually like stimulate some different thoughts. And then what I do is I sit down and I journal, all right? So I've got my journal right here, and I literally, open this thing up, and I will put a date on it. Let me see if I can open it here. I'll date this thing, and I mean, you can just see I've just got like all kind of, actually you can't see, it's not even on, but I just write and I write and I write every single day. I'm just doing, this is where I'm just getting all of my different ideas. I'm drawing different things. I'm recording different things. Sometimes I'm writing, essays and motivation to myself. Sometimes I'm processing thoughts. Sometimes there's a Bible verse that I've just been thinking a lot about. And so I try to just like process like what I'm thinking about that. Sometimes I got different problems I'm going through in business or in life or whatever. And so I'm just trying to like process those thoughts and just like get them out and understand like what that actually looks like. And so, then I do that. Then what I do is I go out and I have a little bit of, so I do cold showers in the morning. I basically read, I journal. I did my 4:30 wake up. I did my mobility, all that kind of stuff. And then that leads me to having breakfast with the family. So right now I've been eating a consistent like 3 eggs and a piece of sourdough bread. So just like a really simple, quick sort of breakfast, nothing too crazy, nothing too big. And then it's straight into my money blocks. All right, so my money blocks, this is where I do my MPAs, so my most profitable activities. This is where I do the things that actually put money into my bank. All right, these are the tasks that are things like generating leads. It's things like, following up with different people. It's maybe making sure that the sales calls I have today are actually going to show up. Again, it's like the most profitable activities. That's a whole other training to understand just like what your most profitable activities are, but that's really where these take place. Then I go into power hour number 1. So power hours is actually the act of how we're actually getting leads and getting them booked in for sales calls. So this is just an entire hour dedicated to prospecting. It's dedicated to actually like generating revenue. And then I just have like an open block here in the rest of my morning. All right. So typically what ends up happening is This is where I'll maybe like take some calls. This is where like I'll take client calls or I'll take sales calls. And then if there's nothing there, then I'll just go ahead and I'll just keep working. And I'll just, I've got all my daily tasks. I know exactly like what needs to get done, how it needs to get done. One thing I actually want to back up. So the first thing I do when I plug into my money block, by the way, is I open up this sheet. And this is kind of what kickstarts my day. So this takes me about 15 minutes. At most it'll take like 20 minutes, but right now it takes me about 15 minutes. No electronics, change location. So I came from upstairs. I sit down right here in my desk. And basically what I do is I review my future self formula. All right. So this is something that's an entire different training, but it's kind of it's like a mindset practice where we have one of the trainings that I have my clients go through is to actually figure out like who they want to become. Like, what does the future you look like? What are your goals? What are your values? What are your virtues? What do you do? What sort of goals do you actually have? Do you want to buy a house? What type of house? Do you want to buy a car? What type of car? What do you want your schedule routine to look like? Do you want to be able to be at your kids' sporting events, right? It's like just getting clear on all that kind of stuff and spending 5 to 10 minutes every single morning reminding ourselves of who it is we actually want to be, right? This is so important because, it's so important because it's going to be through like repetition of every single morning, reminding ourselves of this. It's really easy to like just wake up and go through the motions, right? And this is like one of the bigger reasons, like this training right here, like this is one of the bigger reasons why a lot of people don't end up achieving success. Because as Napoleon Hill talks about in Outwit the Devil, a lot of people just drift. And what I mean by that is they just daydream. So they plug into their business or they plug into their 9 to 5, and a lot of people just daydream all day long. They really can't tell you any sort of like significant things that happen throughout the day. They just kind of plug into business. And what ends up happening is a month passes, 2 months pass, 6 months, 12 months, a year goes by, and they look back and they just like don't really know where their time went. They don't really know what happened. And this is one of the practices that we use to really just like snap us out of a daze. It's to remind ourselves of like, what are we doing? Where are we going? So for example, a really simple way to do this is to literally just set like 5 goals for yourself. All right. A spiritual mindset goal, a personal goal, educational goal, a business goal, a money goal. And every single day to actually come in and look at your goals, to look at these. This is mind, body, spirit, health, fitness, and relationships, right? So it's like actually looking at these things and, reminding yourself every single day, like why you're doing the work, what you're showing up for, where you're going, what you want to achieve over the next 6 months. Elon Musk, I love the 6-month goals, by the way. Elon Musk says what he tries to do is he looks at his 10-year goals and he tries to figure out, why can I not just do these in the next 6 months? And that requires, like, I really like that. When I first heard that, it's like, oh, wow, like how can I take my 10-year goals? So maybe right now you're like, hey, I want to start a gym. But I'm going to start a gym like, 2 or 3 years from now. It's like, cool. Like, what would we need to do to be able to start a gym 6 months from now? That's the way I want you to think. And immediately it starts to create a little bit of urgency and you go, oh, wow, like I would actually need to take a ton of action. I need to land a lot more clients. I need to make a lot more money. I would need to get, start looking around at warehouses, start trying to figure out like how much is gym equipment going to cost? Like you would just kick into a different level of energy and productivity. And so I think that's like really, really important. But then, I come down here and then I review my tracker. So this is my tracker. What I do is I go back to this week and I look at, so this, by the way, this repopulates. This is something I give my clients. This repopulates every single day automatically. There's algorithms and things inside of this tracker. And so I can actually pull up and I can look at, how have I been doing this week? How have I been doing this month? This is just the template, so nothing's actually filled out on it. But you can actually track and you can see, these are all, I have to actually unlock this page, but these are all check marks and you can just click these and you can check them off as you do them every single day. You have your business activities, you have your personal daily activities. And so what we can do is we can actually just review and see like, what do I need to get done today? What did I get done yesterday? What did I not get done yesterday? And we can begin to kind of get an idea of what today needs to look like. Then I go ahead and review my daily calendar. So I pull this up and I look and I see, cool, like what do I got going on? Do I have any coaching calls? Do I have any sales calls? Like I'm reviewing this stuff and taking a look at that. And then I go ahead and I start to get into my day. So I go ahead and I plan my day. So here's a set of questions. I'm not going to go through all this stuff, but here's a set of questions that I'll go through and I'll kind of journal on. What am I grateful for today? What would make today a great day? Or what do I not want to happen today? Super important questions. Sometimes it's really hard to know like what you want. So I like to reverse it and be like, what do I not want? Right. And so anyways, I go through a morning checklist. I get to work. And again, we're going to walk through some of that. Then at the end of the day, I have a very similar thing where I sit down, I update my tracker, I update my calendar, I'll review, I'll brain dump, I'll figure out like, what do I need to do? How can I close some loops today so that I can, check out and spend some time with the family, get some sleep, and some things like that. So anyways, it's a really simple routine that I just follow every single morning to kind of get me in the headspace. You can pause this. I scrolled through all this. You can pause this and like, look at all these things, but it's pretty straightforward and simple. All right. So this happens first thing in the morning. All right. So the combination again is I've got my time blocks set up. All right. So I've got my time blocks. I've got a morning and evening routine that I do just briefly to kind of plan my day and then also wrap up my day. And then I've also got a little bit of like a tracking and accountability metric here for myself, or a little system here to actually like be tracking my task and making sure that every single day like things are getting done. And so let me finish walking you through the calendar, and we'll kind of like wrap this all up and bring this together. Hopefully I'm kind of rambling on all this. I know there's just like a lot of stuff I'm jumping in between tabs here, but hopefully this is helpful and this is all like making sense. So again, let's take it from the top. We get the protocol. The protocol is really, so everything that's in red, by the way, is kind of like my own personal development stuff. Everything that's in blue, so like sales calls, coaching calls, those actually are color coded to come up in blue. So those would like get filled in these spaces. And then purple is family time. And then I've got this lighter purple that's like date night on Friday. All right. And so again, let me walk you through this. So the protocol, again, two things we're doing here is we're getting some non-negotiables figured out. Like what are the things that I don't enjoy doing, but I know would move me forward? Maybe you're like, I need to consume the e-course, that I just purchased. I purchased an e-course 6 months ago and I've still never even gone through it. So that would probably be a non-negotiable where it's like, I hate going through this stuff and learning. So that needs to be a thing because that you're like, dude, the answers to building a multi-six-figure business or the next level that I want is inside that e-course, but I keep procrastinating on it and putting it off, right? So it's like, okay, cool. Like that would go inside the protocol. But then also like choose your hard, right? So put some things in here that are difficult, not necessarily just things that are fun. Put some things in here that are difficult. They're going to challenge you so that you can teach yourself that you're starting your day off successful. For me personally, again, it's like waking up at 4:30 and then, put accountability metrics in, put accountability. For me, like I said, it's taking the video and posting that on my stories. Then I have breakfast with the fam. Then I have the money blocks. Then I have power hours. Then I have like an open work block. Then I head off to the gym and actually get my workout in. I come home, I eat a quick lunch, and then it's right back into either calls or just doing some more work. And, every single day, so then I do an end of day report at 2:45. So that's what this very last, if you scroll all the way down here, this is where the step 5, like end of day, that's where this comes into play. It's like, what was the highlights from today? Out of 10, what would I rate my day? Why was it not a 1 then, right? I hope you see, like, by the way, I'm always kind of like positioning against negativity. It's like, why wasn't my day a 1? It's like a terrible day. I'm like, dude, it was a 2, but why wasn't it a 1? Well, because like I'm healthy, because I didn't break a bone, because I didn't get in an accident, because my family's healthy, right? Because my family has a roof over our head. So I'm always trying to find like the silver lining. I'm always trying to find like some positivity in the day. What can make it better? What's my plan to make tomorrow great, or at least not a bad day? What's my plan for that? Biggest lessons from today that I can use or share with people that would be helpful. And then I go ahead and I close the loops. What did not get done today that needs to be put down for tomorrow so I don't forget it, right? And that's one of the first things I look at in the morning. What bothers me or is on my mind that needs to be put on paper so I can check out, be present with the family, and go to sleep later, right? So again, I'm like writing all this stuff down. I'm journaling this. I actually personally like to use my notes app inside of my iPhone. I'm also here on my MacBook, so a lot of times I pull it up and I just type it, but those two things link together. So that's where I like to do these, answer these sorts of questions, right? So that happens at 2:45, and then I'm done by work at 3, all right? And so you might look at that and you might go like, dude, that's crazy. It's like, yeah, as an entrepreneur, one of the most difficult things for us to do is to be able to check out of work. It's actually incredibly difficult, which is why principle number 3 is actually putting your commitments on the calendar is so important. As an entrepreneur, as a person who is ambitious, as a person who has, probably big financial money goals, one of the most difficult things for you to do is going to find, being able to just like check out, right? And I totally get it. It's one of the biggest struggles that I have. And so one thing that I've done to really put some accountability metrics in here is schedule in things like date night, all right? Schedule in times like when you're actually going to spend time with your family, and make it a priority that you're not going to talk about work. All right, make it a priority that you're not going to talk about work, that you're actually genuinely going to check out. And here's the thing is you will make more money by doing something like this. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but you will actually literally make more money. And the analogy I want to give you here is it's like, how do you make the most progress in the gym? It's like where you actually like leave the gym and you focus on things outside of the gym. You focus on your nutrition. You focus on sleep and rest and recovery and getting some steps in, right? It's like when you're doing other things that your body recovers and you actually make progress. And in the same way, like if your brain is never given a break, right? If your mind is never given a chance to actually process some of the stress and some of the thoughts, some of the things that are happening inside your business, like I can't even begin to tell you how many times I was literally out on like a Friday night hanging out with some friends, and we're at a restaurant and we're just talking about something random when somebody says something that clicks, that has nothing to do about business, that just literally like clicks. And I go, oh my goodness, that's literally the solution that I've been looking for all week, right? It's like outside of work where you actually have a lot of these breakthroughs. And then when you plug back into work, you can actually be effective and productive. But there's this thing called Parkinson's law, which basically states that, work will fill the allotted time you give it. And we know this to be true. I want you to think back to, when you were a little kid, and maybe there was a time where your parents were like, hey, your mom was like, we're going to go to the zoo on Saturday, right? And she was like, but you have to clean your room before we go to the zoo. And so it's like Monday, and Monday comes and goes, you didn't clean your room. Tuesday comes and goes, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You wake up Saturday morning and you've still not cleaned your room. And, it's been like, 5 whole days at this point. And, your mom's like, dude, we're literally not leaving until you clean your room. And then what happened? You probably went and cleaned your room in literally like 20 minutes. So it took 5 days to do a 20 or 30 minute task so that you could then go to the zoo. Work happens in the exact same way. The reason that a lot of entrepreneurs don't actually get a lot done, the reason they're not as productive as they could be, is because they don't have these sort of constraints inside of their day. As soon as you tell yourself like you're going to be done with work by 3 p.m. every single day, immediately you start going like, oh shit, I have got to start getting stuff done much quicker. I've got to start being much more efficient. I've got to stop dragging things out. I've got to stop overthinking. I've got to stop sitting down at my desk and be like, cool, I need to send DMs. And then 30 minutes goes by and I find myself over on YouTube and I'm watching videos or I'm sitting here scrolling through TikToks. You start to realize like, no, like I actually need to sit down and like get this stuff done, right? And so that's why creating these systems and actually like time blocking and setting this stuff up and putting your commitments into the calendar and being like, no, I'm going to go spend time with family. I'm going to go out on these date nights. Like I'm going to do these things. It's actually going to make you more money. By working less, you will make more money because your brain will creatively start to figure out different solutions that you like how can I be more effective? How can I get the outcomes I'm looking for if I can't work 12, 14, 16, 18 hours a day, right? Your brain begins to work and to find ways to make the work actually happen, but you have to give it these constraints because otherwise your brain would just allow it to fill up all the time. And there was a time in a period where, my businesses were like that. Like I had really bad burnout a couple years ago. And the issue is that I had gotten away from doing this sort of stuff. I wasn't time blocking. I wasn't tracking my task. I didn't have routines and, processes in place. And so because of that, I was literally waking up and, I work at home. So it's like I would wake up, I'd go make me a coffee, right? And I would just go sit down at my desk. Sitting on my desk, I'd work. A lot of days, I honestly skipped lunch, wouldn't eat all day. Probably a lot of you guys can relate to that. I'm just like so consumed by work. I'm just working. I'm not eating. I'm not going to the gym. I'm not getting my steps in. And then I would just like wake up at like 5 or 6 o'clock. Alli would be like, hey, there's some food. And I would go eat. We would maybe watch something on Netflix, but I would just be like so tired that I would go crash at like 6:30 or 7 most nights. And then I would just wake up and I would do it all again in the morning. And that is what that is like the really bad, like that is the dark side of what can happen when you do not design your business intentionally in such a way where you can continue to live your life, to actually take care of different priorities, and you can actually value other things in life outside of work. And I promise you, like you will make more money this way. Now, reality is like you might not become Alex Hormozi. You might not build a $100 million empire. But also like when you hear him and you watch his videos, he's like, we don't want kids because we don't have time for them. He says, I work 7 days a week. I don't go home for my family's Christmases and holidays. And when I look at it, and that's totally fine. Like he's happy and well, maybe not with the Tony Robbins video. He basically was like, yeah, I'm just like not happy. But regardless, like it's his life and he can do what he wants. But when I look at it, like personally, I'm more than happy if, me and my family can take home $20,000, $30,000 every single month. And we are able to get out of debt. We're able to have nice vehicles, have a nice house, pay ourselves, stack aside money for, investments, stack aside money for our kids' college tuitions if that's the route they end up wanting to take, that I can, give them a cool wedding. Like to me, take a couple vacations a year. To me, those are the important things in life. Those are the things that I personally prioritize. And so that's why this system specifically is like built for this. Now, like if you're trying to be a bro scaler and you're a 20-year-old kid that has no life responsibilities, like I've totally been there. I was building businesses, at 21 years old when I dropped out of college, and my life was nothing but building businesses, right? I had no girlfriends. I didn't go out on dates. I didn't even go out and hang out with my friends. I was not partying. Like I literally just worked and I built my businesses, and that was just my entire life from sun up to sundown. And nowadays, it's like that was cool and all. It served its purpose. It's fun. I don't regret any of those things. But just nowadays, like I have other responsibilities, I have other things that I value in life. And so this is the system, this is the process that I have really been able to install to, again, give me enough structure where, my days aren't just waking up and just winging it. So I have enough structure, but then also there's enough flexibility where when things happen, when Alli needs a little bit of extra help in the morning, or, Evie has, I need to take over and like help with her in some way, that I'm still able to also move my businesses forward, that I understand what things actually put money in the bank and I can make sure those things get done as well. Right. And so that's kind of the combination of these three assets are really the three biggest things that I do every single day. I have my the time blocking is like a one-time thing. You sit down, you set this up, you figure out what does an ideal week look like for you. where are things going to go? Then we build out a tracker for you. We get some goals down, and by the way, you don't have to wake up before 30. This is just examples of like what I personally do. But we figure out like, what are your personal success habits, right? What are your business success habits? Like, what do you actually need to do for you and your business? And then we just install like a really simple daily routine where you wake up, you plug in, you get clear on what needs to be, what needs to actually get done today, what things are going to look like, and we get to work. So hopefully this is helpful. The 3 principles again that you really want to build on, because like I said, just because I wake up at 4:30 does not mean like I don't tell my clients like, oh, you need to wake up at 4:30. That's not the overarching point. The overarching point of the 3 principles is you need to understand your non-negotiables. What are the things that you actually struggle with, but that would actually move you forward if you did them? Maybe it would be waking up early for you, and if so, then I encourage you to start doing that. Number 2, choose your hard. So pick something that's going to be difficult, pick things that are challenging, go ahead and knock those things out early in the morning. And number 3, put your commitments on the calendar and get accountability for the things that are outside of work, things like date nights, things like not talking about work when you're with your wife, with your husband, like whatever that looks like, making sure that you actually have these commitments and these things, family time and things that are important to you, making sure these things are actually on the calendar. So that's the 3 principles. Plug those into these systems. Hopefully this is, like I said, hopefully it's helpful. This is insightful. I know this is a little bit of a longer one, but that's kind of my thought process around just being productive. This is stuff, by the way, that I help every single one of my clients figure out and build out inside of their business. So I have an offer that is called Business by Design. And this is the entire principle and concept of what we're doing is we're building a business around your life where you get to have the levels of freedom that you want, where we can prioritize the things that are important to you. And it just looks different for each and every single person. So going in and just figuring out like, what do you want? What is the business you want? What is the life you want? What are the different, again, life priorities and things that you have? And going in and actually building a business, building a life philosophy, getting the offers and the funnels in place, getting these personal operating systems set up for you so you know exactly what to do, how to do it, getting into your program and getting your retention rhythms in place and understanding like how to deliver a good service so that people are staying, paying, and referring. All of that is stuff that we do inside that offer. And so if that's something to be interested in, would love to chat with you. Go ahead and reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook, like wherever it is you follow me. And I can send you some different videos and some things to maybe just give you insight into like what we do. But I'd love to just chat with you and see if we can help. Just message me the words design and I'd be happy to help you. I've got a couple different offers. I got a community program. I've got some one-to-one coaching slots as well if those are available. And so plenty of different ways that I can help you. So with that being said, hopefully this is helpful. Like I said, reach out to me if you would like to chat. Other than that, I'll see you in the next